Dear friends and learners, I am Dr. Amit Gangwal, Associate Professor at SVKM's Institute of Pharmacy, Dhule. So next video in this course on AI in Pharmaceutical Sciences is on clinical trials. How AI, that is artificial intelligence, is changing entire equations and dimensions of clinical trials for bringing medicines faster in the market. That will be the subject matter of next few videos as part of this online course. So without taking much of your time, we proceed further. Here in this image I have shown the elephant because clinical trial is the most important steps among all the stages and procedures of drug discovery marathon. At the same time, clinical trial takes too much time in drug discovery marathon, and it is a costly affair. So to signify this, to indicate this, I have used the image of jumbo. So clinical trial is a stage between preclinical studies, that is studies of drug-like molecule or drug candidate in the animals, and submission of FDA approval. So after successful animal studies, company has to go for clinical trial, and for taking permission for conducting clinical trial, pharma companies or biotech companies or biopharma companies have to take the permission from concerned regulatory bodies for conducting clinical trial. So the application for that request, I mean the application to begin the clinical trial, is called investigational new drug application, that is INDA. Once clinical trials are successful, company has to apply again for what we call it new drug application to commercialize the drug molecule, that is also called market authorization. So what is the meaning of clinical trial? The study of drug-like molecule, investigational drug candidate after successful testing into the animal. The testing is done into the humans. It is called clinical trial. So there are two types of humans in that case. I mean, two groups are there. I mean, the different types of subjects are there. One is healthy volunteer group, another is actual patients who are suffering from the disorder for which the drug molecule, I mean drug like molecule or drug candidate is being tested. So it is called a clinical trial. In this infographics, which I have taken from world famous CB Insights, I am thankful to this organization, which is very famous for making market reports, surveys, and beautifully depicting, making original infographics, and they permit to use it free of cost after proper procedure and their prior approval through their procedures. So in this phase, in this diagram, you can see phase 1 there are healthy volunteers only. In phase 2 there are few healthy volunteers, then there are few patients, and likewise. So when we move from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, there is change in number of patients. Number of patients increase in phase 3, and there is no healthy volunteers, and it is less in number actually, and there is more population. Different areas in the world they choose for conducting phase 3 clinical trial, because once a drug is launched, it cannot be sold only in one country. It will be available to various people of various countries as per the interest of the pharma company. So at one time only, in single go, they check the effect in various type of populations. So each phase is designed to answer certain questions. Basically questions are how safe the medicament is, that is clinical trial are done to check the efficacy, potency, safety, toxicology, adverse effect, and they are also done to fix the minimum starting dose and what is the range after which the drug may show adverse effect. So these are the some predefined what we call predefined aims or the objects of conducting clinical trial studies. So first, one of the most famous clinical trial was done by James Lynch, and he showed that the citrus fruits treat scurvy. He compared the effects of various acidic materials on groups of stricken sellers. His study concluded that within 6 days, the group who were given oranges and lemons had largely recovered from scurvy. So it was not organized, but it is said that this was one of the earliest type of clinical trial in the history of mankind. So in the application, that is investigational new drug application, developers means the sponsor or the pharma company or others who are leading this research, that is clinical trial. They in the application they include animal study data. Of course, clinical trial is entirely based on the safety profile into the animal. So in the application you have to submit animal study data and toxicity, that is side effects that causes great harm, manufacturing information, how it will be prepared, what type of dosage form is to be tested uh, into the subjects, clinical protocol, that is study plan for studies to be conducted. We all know there are few parameters like double blind study, randomized clinical trial, placebos are there, and everything is there. So we are not going to detail for that, because we will only study few basic of the clinical trial, then very fastly, very swiftly we will shift to AI, how AI can be used to, how AI can be leveraged for the faster output of clinical trial with minimum time and with minimum expenses. So data from any prior human research, information about the investigator. These are the points. These are the points which are to be mentioned into the application. Clinical trials are an important part of medical research. Successful trials result in the release of new medications, new treatments, and a deeper understanding of how to care for patients. Through the power of artificial intelligence, clinical trials can now be conducted less expensively, more efficiently, and with more accurate results. In subsequent videos, we will talk about which are the organizations, which are the startups who are leveraging AI for applications in clinical trials. So clinical trial protocol means a written detailed protocol written by the experts, and a copy is given to third party contractor, FDA, patient, doctor, sponsor, researcher, and pharma company which is organizing, or a sponsor who is giving the fund for this type of studies. So this protocol contains everything: how many patients will be there, what type of dosage forms will be given, what will be different types of doses, in which part of the world this protocol will be studied, and everything is in detail, and it is to be followed as such. This is called the written clinical trial protocol. One famous phrase is there, that one famous, I mean the words are there in clinical trial, that is double blind clinical trial. In that neither the doctor nor the patient, none of the group knows what type of medicines they are taking. Either they are taking actual medicines or placebo. There is no revealing of the fact to the doctor and the patient, to maintain the secrecy and to avoid any psychological bias or unbiased or the any partiality. So it is different type of protocols are there. So till now there has been no effective option to the trial and error approach. Means we have to go for clinical trial in detail. There is no shortcut. There is no technology driven or enabled type of faster method of clinical trial. But because of advent of AI, now clinical trials are being done in a faster manner. How? We will talk in later session of this video. So now being able to comprehend and calculate which drugs will work best for which patient would be of marvelous benefit to both patients and the doctors that serve farmer. Only 5% of the US, according to some data, only 5% of the US population participates in clinical research. Means there are 100 patients who are patient of particular disorder. For example, there are 100 patients of diabetes, and there is one clinical trial going on for new type of medicament or new type of treatment. So out of 100 diabetes patients, only 5 patients join clinical trial. So if there are less patients, if recruitment of patients are delayed, then how we can expect faster drug will be available in the market? Now owing to the advent of new software tools that make research faster, inexpensive, and more available, and with a progressive FDA digital health team, there is separate dedicated team in FDA, that is in US FDA, which is looking for AI and medical devices, wearable devices, and everything. Handheld devices all are being studied by a separate arm of FDA. So now how AI help? So naturally trials that fail at a later stages prove more costly. Suppose a clinical trial is successful in phase 1 and phase 2, but it fails in phase 3. So it is very pathetic situation. Amount has been lost, energy has been lost. So it is always better if we get earlier failure, though failure are not recommended, they are not advisable. But at all, if we get the failure in earlier stages of clinical trial, so for example, in clinical trial phase 1, we get the failure, then we can save lot of money by preventing the trial in phase 2 and 3. So clinical trials bomb. Clinical trials fail for a variety of reasons, and because of this failure, they are costly, and this failure leads to very costly drug discovery procedure. We all know it takes 10 to 12 years for launching a drug molecule, and it takes around 2.7 billion US dollar. Out of this, around 5 to 6 years are taken by clinical trial process. So what are the reasons for failure of clinical trial? Failure to recruit sufficient trial participants. As I told you, only 5%. First of all, we have to identify what type of patients we need. For example, there are thousands of diabetes patients, but we need only those patients which will respond better, because there are many mechanisms of treating diabetes. For example, we are using a mechanism to treat diabetes. So we will take only those patients which are probably best suited to respond to a type of mechanism for diabetes treatment. So there is failure to recruit sufficient trial participants, because there are fixed number of the subject size. You cannot go for a smaller or medium size of sample size. Sufficient healthy volunteers and sufficient the patient must be there before you commence the clinical trial. Otherwise, there is statistical failure will be there. So what are the reasons for failure of clinical trial? Failure to recruit sufficient trial participants. Mid-trial patient dropout. Sometimes patients leave in an erratic manner. Abruptly, they can leave, and they leave the clinical trial procedure. So again, you have to compensate, you have to recruit new patient. Entire things go awry if you don't go for proper mechanism. So you cannot go for example, 3 patients have dropped they left out, so you cannot have 3 more. You have to entirely change as per statistical treatment and the specialist of a different data analysis stream. So because of side effects, we have to stop the clinical trial. So you see this image here, we all know that this is the process of drug discovery. There are, for example, 1,000 drug like molecule, only 1 or 2 comes as successful drug candidate. But in case of AI will only take those molecule or which are having good potential for becoming successful blockbuster drug molecule, and it will also help in recruiting only those patients which will respond properly to the treatment, right? The high costs related with clinical trial also have downstream effects on cost of patients, because companies bundle R&D cost of unsuccessful trial. As I told you, the loss of amount because of failed clinical trial is added into the next phase of drug discovery, and it will be taken into consideration by the sponsor, and ultimately this leads to increased drug cost for the patient. Now, what are the reasons for failure? Patients often only enroll in a drug trial when existing forms of treatments have already failed. Suppose one patient is there and he is getting benefit, he is being properly managed or treated by available option of the medicament, then he will not be interested in willingly to take part in the clinical trial. Not all diagnosed patients are eligible for trial participation. As I told you, suppose for example there are hundreds of patients of lung cancer, but you plan to launch a drug for lung cancer for a reason which is called reason X, but you have all the population of lung cancer having lung cancer because of reason Y. So if you are targeting reason X for drug discovery for lung cancer, you cannot recruit patients who are having lung cancer because of Y reason. So again, you are having narrowed population for recruitment for the clinical trial. Now, for those that are eligible, participating in a trial is often a cost and time-intensive endeavor. So, very beautifully, CB Insights have explained What are the very basic type of issues in traditional or classical clinical trial? So we all know in clinical trial, the subject, that is the healthy volunteer or the patients, have to follow the protocol. That is, they have to take the medicament as per the instructions of the doctor or the experts. They have to follow the regimes or the schedule given by the doctor. They have to note down the type of medicine they have taken, time, everything, symptoms they have to note down before, after taking the medicament. So here the doctor or the nurse is asking, this is the healthy volunteer or the patient. She is the team member of the sponsor or the clinical trial member or the CRO member. She is asking, there is a missing entry in your diary from 2 weeks ago. Means you have not entered what you have taken. Have you taken medicament or not as per the protocol? Did you take your pill? So the lady is responding, yes, I think so, I have taken. So she is not remembering, she is not able to recall properly. So nurse is asking, do you remember what time you took it? Oh, I think around 7 p.m. Again, she is not confirmed. So nurse is saying, okay, let me make a note in your diary. So she will make a note in the diary that she is not able to confirm or recall whether she has taken medicament or not. So this type of unintentional or intentional human errors may lead to failed clinical trial, or what we call it, fakingly, unintentionally failed type of clinical trial. So this process of clinical trial is further affected by reliance on patient memory. As we have discussed, the patient memory is not good, then it may lead to fiasco or fully failure in the clinical trial. Then outdated recording system. You have to record in the diary, okay, she has taken medicament, he has not taken. What if the paper has been lost, diary has been lost? In that case, how to get all those data of last 6 to 4 months? Then risk of dropout. These are the reasons for failed clinical trial. So now AI has the potential to disrupt clinical trial. Disruptive technology, a technology or disruptive innovation, an innovation which is disrupting existing system of doing anything. It is called disruptive technology. So AI has arrived to disrupt each and every stages and system of clinical trial. So according to world famous market analysis or research from Deloitte, the adoption of AI technologies is becoming a critical business imperative, specifically in the following 6 areas. So these are the 6 areas of clinical trial where AI can be used. In fact, it is being used successively by various startup and pharma companies in collaboration with the AI organization or technology organization. What are those 6 areas? Clinical trial design, patient enrichment, recruitment and enrollment, investigator and site selection, patient monitoring, medication adherence and retention, using operational data to drive AI-enabled clinical trial analytics, outsourcing and a strategic relationship to obtain necessary AI skills and talent. So we all know the Deloitte is a famous research firm. According to this infographic I have taken from the Deloitte.com, you see the first, so trial design, then trial startup, trial conduct, study closeout. In all these stages, there is use of AI. Let me tell you few example. Assess feasibility of protocol design for patient recruitment using real world data. So you have electronic health data and real world data. So usually what happens in conventional, you have to give some type of information, through various approaches you have to recruit the patient. In case of AI driven clinical trial, various health related medical data which is entered into system. So using some software, AI will tell the sponsor, in this country, in this city, so and so number of patients are suffering from cancer according to this health data. So you can approach directly this customer, these patients, and these are the address of this patient. Directly you can communicate to them, you can approach them for recruitment. This is how you will save time by not doing random subject or patient selection. Assess site performance, for example enrollment and dropout rates with real-time monitoring. So for example, there are few organizations, there are few cities, there are few instances where there is frequent dropout. So AI will tell you avoid doing or taking this type of population, or in this season, in this area, you may avoid taking or doing clinical trial, because based on data of last 20 years, there is failure at this particular site. This type of ready to use insights or actionable insights through AI, company can save a good number of months, if not years, by using AI. So different examples they have given how AI will help the clinical trial teams. So how AI technologies can help deliver clinical trial enrichment strategies highlighted in FDA guidance. So you can see here different types of patients are there, and through your AI analytics you can confirm what type of patient you have to recruit or you have to eliminate or not to consider. So in this case, they have shown the patient journey through an AI enabled clinical trial. So here you can see doctor uses AI enabled search tool to find a clinical trial using the patient's clinical data, or EHR, that is electronic health record. By quickly mining numerous dataset, AI algorithms find a match with a recruiting phase 2 study, and the patient can process to enroll. In this way, even the patient and doctor both can know what type of a clinical trial they are going to part of. So according to our own world famous Vasant Kalathur Narasimha, the CEO of top 10 among the top 10 pharma company Novartis, what he says, a team sittingly, these are the words of himself, of him I have taken from website of Novartis. A team sitting centrally in our headquarters can look at all our clinical trial in the world, and AI is predicting which of our trials are going to enroll on time or not enroll on time, and which ones are going to have quality issues or not have quality issues. And the reasons we could do this, because we had 10 years of history to train the algorithms, means they have data of last 10 years of clinical trial. Okay, there is no issue. The data may not be of same disorder for similar type of drug molecule, but based on the data, they have trained the algorithm. As I told you, which type of patient we have to recruit, what type of CT or third party organization not supporting data, or so and so. So based on earlier bitter experience, earlier data of failure and success, they trained the machine learning model through algorithms, and they run about 400 to 500 clinical trials a year. So we had a lot of data on which we could train the algorithms. He says that AI is proving quite useful in finance. AI does a great job predicting our free cash flow. He says predicting a lot of our sales for key products. It does better than our internal people because it doesn't have any bias. The importance of AI, it should be bias free, and the data are really clean, and we have a lot of long-term data. So obviously earlier videos I have discussed you, if you don't have data, there is no use of machine learning, and if you don't have machine learning, there is no use of data. So if you talk about wearable devices, for example Apple Watch or insulin pump or other things, what it says in general, sensors is another place where there has been a lot of hype about expectation. We have been really trying to explore the use of sensors in clinical trial. Now in my own experience for at least 6 years, it has been tough trying to get sensors that really meet clinical trial grade outcomes, that really show that they can be validated versus our current clinical endpoints. As consumer products, fine and perfect. But here we need to really be able to replace what are pretty rigorous tests, and we haven't seen that yet. Now we are exploring the use of many different sensors. So basically wearable devices, handheld devices, and earlier data of clinical trial, these all are used to train the machine learning algorithms to get good output by the AI models. So how AI driven protocol designs make clinical trial more intelligent? By analyzing historical operational data, as I told you, historical data of last 10 to 20 years of clinical trial, machine learning models can be trained. Measuring drug responses, predicting site performance, monitoring trial risk preemptively, centralizing trial monitoring, enabling voice-assisted technologies, monitoring drug adherence, enabling siteless and virtual trial. It is the latest and hottest point in AI-driven clinical trial, siteless and virtual trial. So to improve clinical trial outcome, researchers in academia and the pharmaceutical industry are turning to AI. Powered by the fast increasing amounts of medical data that are accessible to researchers, it is important. Earlier, there was difficulty in accessing the medical data, but now there are two benefits. Huge amount of data are being generated every day. We are swimming, we are doing cycling, we are walking, we are running, we are doing racing, and we are wearing Apple Watch or other company watch. So everything is being recorded. So this data which is being recorded are now easily available for study. So data is trying to make the AI possible. So powered by the fast increasing amounts of medical data that are accessible to researchers, including those provided by electronic health records, EHR, and of course wearable gadgets like Apple Watch, sophisticated machine learning algorithms have the power to save billions of dollars to speed up medical developments. So how this ecosystem using AI is being changed. So lot many AI startups are there, and they are being contacted by big technology company, pharmaceutical companies, hospital, academic houses, universities, data management centers, other things. So the emergence of AI and new technologies is greatly changing the clinical trial ecosystem. Fueled by the need to reduce cost and improve the efficiency and success rate in clinical trial, a whole new breed of technology providers have entered an arena that was previously untouched by non-pharma companies. With this, we finish this introductory video. In coming videos, we will talk about how exactly companies using the historical data to train machine learning models. We will also talk about few startup as example, and few established company also who are venturing into AI driven clinical trials. Thank you very much.